Good morning, engineering students. We're trying out some video lessons this week. I've had some time to get this up and running. Hopefully it works out. I'm going to be explaining what the assignment is for Monday and Tuesday, as well as giving some comments on the lesson that I just kind of put online last week because I didn't really have the capability to do this yet. So anyhow, this week, so this unit, we're talking about the elements and principles of design. So we're kind of breaking down the aesthetics of how things look and feel. So this assignment's called Love It or Hate It. You're gonna pick two products online that you think are really aesthetically pleasing, meaning you like how they look. You don't have to own these products, just anything that you like the look of. And you're going to tell me why you like the look of it using elements and principles of design. And make sure you underline them. That way I can quickly see what they are. It helps a lot. You need to do that to get credit. And then you're going to also take two items online that you hate the appearance of. And we're not just going to say like, oh, I hate it. We're going to actually use elements and principles to understand what it is about it that you hate it. So I'll go ahead and give an example. Here's a product I really like. The first smartphone that I owned was the iPhone 4. And I really liked the white color of it, how kind of boxy it was. It was really strong. There was no bend gate at the time. I really liked the single button. There was a lot of like keyboard phones with a lot of little tiny buttons, and that seemed really complicated and like they would break. This didn't seem like it would break, and I really liked Apple was talking about the unity of like it has the App Store, and everyone you have all the apps. So like your friend's not gonna have a game that you can't download because the App Store has everything. So that's kind of like what I really liked about the product. And so I ended up purchasing it. But like I said, you don't have to actually own this product. It can be a product that's, you can even talk about the Cybertruck that's not even out yet. So if there's a product that you can look online and see the look of it, you can go ahead and love it or hate it. Maybe you hate the Cybertruck. All right, so I'm not gonna go through this whole lesson, but I'm gonna talk about a couple of things. So first of all, the elements and principles really pair together. So point, line, and color. We can start to talk about like color contrast or color balance, which those are the principles. These are the elements, and so it kind of makes sense to look at them together, though I can't flip back and forth with this. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly so I can get to the later slides. A lot of this is pretty obvious, but it helps to break it down when you're thinking about an object, going step by step, like, okay, do I like the lines? Do I like the color? Do I like the shape? Do I like the texture of it? Because texture actually matters a lot, and you might not be thinking about it. But most people know about points and lines. Lines can be interesting because we've learned a lot about how to use lines to actually create perspectives and depth, shading, when it's just all an illusion. Um, yeah, there's a lot of this I don't need to necessarily narrate over. Kind of skip through here. Vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines are very interesting in design, especially when they don't have to be diagonal. And so it's like a choice to make it diagonal, and that can be interesting why they did that. Was it just purely structural, or is there a reason for it? Um, Same idea with curved versus straight lines. Sydney Opera House is a very interesting shaped building, very curved. That's that one in the lower right. I think I can even circle here with a pen. Let's try that out and circle, see if that works. I'll erase that and see what happens. Leave a little star. Curious to see what happens. All right. Color is really, really important. And there's a lot of vocab to be able to communicate because you can talk about hue, you can talk about value, you can talk about saturation, and warm versus cool colors. And I went to go to the hardware store to buy a bulb that burned out, and there were 4 different colors of light, and I just left without buying the bulb. I had no idea what to buy. I felt stupid and had to go back and look at the old one in the trash can. The warm colors are what people really like in their houses, though. So just gonna skip through a little bit more, see if I can get to the elements. And so I think it'll spend a few times, spend like 5 seconds on each slide, depending on how I've set it. The space is kind of interesting because space, you can talk about the positive space where they have placed things, or negative space where something is not. Obviously, because you've got positive space, you're filling it up, but then even here, we've got some negative space over here. There's just nothing here. So the intentional, or if obviously here this is intentional. I haven't filled this entire page with information, and that's intentional because there's too much then. So you just want to be able to draw attention to a little bit and use negative space. You don't have to look over here. Okay, let's keep moving forward. Texture. So yeah, texture, we're talking about feel, but online, when you're looking at a product in shopping, we're also talking about look. Because I can't touch any of these objects, but I can kind of tell how they're going to feel if I could touch them. Okay, let's get to the principles. All right, so like I said, these kind of pair with the elements because you can think of the element like a line. And now you can start to talk about line balance, line emphasis, line contrast, line rhythm, line unity, line economy, line proportion. So I feel like a lot of these principles are hard to discuss without bringing an element like line or color. Now we can talk about color contrast or color rhythm or color economy. How many different colors are allowed for there to be in a UI. For a computer or a phone. We'll go through these slides, but I don't have too much to say about these. These are kind of abstract on their own. So you could talk about balance, kind of just like with color. We're talking about reds and greens, and is it overpowered like on the face? Is this out of balance here or not? Talking about things being out of balance, obviously, visually unappealing. If they were symmetrical, that'd be more appealing. Radial balance. It's actually unusual to see things not radial balanced, but you could imagine a hub where one of the sections is different would be rather annoying. You don't see it very often. Emphasis is so yeah, here we go. This idea, emphasis of shape, emphasis of lines, emphasis of color, contrast. Just the word emphasis on its own doesn't really mean too much. Now, color emphasis, directing your attention to where you need to interact with. Contrast is really tying into that. Being able to draw your attention. This could be any color in the world, but it's white. The color plants will never be. Contrast. So, people aren't yellow, but they're sure easy to see when they are yellow. It's a good design choice. Rhythm. We're not really talking about music here, although there is a piece of sheet music on the screen. Really, we're just talking about how often when we're talking about rhythm. And so how often something is repeated, or is it repeated at all, or is it repeated a lot? Like these spires, pretty much everything has a spire, but not always. Should it be there? Does it need to be repeated again, or is it better without it there? Okay, I want to get to the end. Economy. So economy is kind of an interesting concept where talking about bare minimum of elements kind of ties it back towards something that Apple is really known for is there's one button, and so the designing around that, like, no, we're not going to have two buttons, we're going to have one button, and that's going to be a design emphasis. That's going to be our we're going to have the bare minimum. That's going to be our economy, that it's just one button to use. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is right. It's just a way of designing. Um, Not a good way to build everything, but a phone for many people to use might be a good idea. So this very last slide kind of prompts the idea of, let me see here, I don't want to animate, that might end the show. Prompts the idea of pairing like point emphasis or like color rhythm. I believe these are specifically referring to an object. Let's see. Yeah, that's that object right there. Um, so anyhow, pick two items, talk about why you love them, and pick two more and talk about why you hate them. But you must underline and use our elements and our principles of design. There's not going to be any lesson for Tuesday because you just have 2 days to do this. If you need any help, stop by office hours. Maybe I'll see you there. Other than that, I'll see you guys on Wednesday with your next lesson.